I think it's recording now. Good evening. My name's Sarmad. I'm original from Iraq, and I moved to the United States in 2014. And currently, I'm attending University of Iowa College of Dentistry. I originally did medical school in Iraq, and after I moved here, I decided I want to do dentistry. And today, I'm meeting with a wonderful person, Ali Al-Shaikhly. He's a neurology resident at. I think I'm gonna let you introduce yourself and a little bit of background about yourself, and then we can go ahead from there.
All right.
Ali, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Thanks so much for this opportunity to spend some time chatting. My name is Ali. I'm originally from Iraq, Baghdad. Um, I finished medical school back in December of 2013. And I'm currently doing neurology residency, second year at the University of New Mexico Hospital. Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for accepting the invitation and being my first guest. I think this is hopefully going to be a series of meeting with different people in different residency programs in medicine and hopefully in dentistry and pharmacology. I don't know yet, or it's just this is a new thing for me. So I hopefully people give me feedback. We can improve from there. I just want to ask you, how is it like to be a resident, like in a residency program in U.S. in New Mexico?
Yeah, so actually, I've heard it from many people. This is one of the most difficult life phases that you would go through for several reasons. You will have very limited time for your personal life. Most of the work will be dedicated for the hospital. You have to squish a lot of information in your head within relatively short period of time. Over 3 years, 4 years, you have to be fully well trained in a specialty that you match in. The more you proceed in the residency, the more responsibilities you learn. Each phase has its own difficulty and its comfortable zone as well. In the first year was probably more challenging, I would say, because I'm coming from medical system that's still using the paper and pens, and to a fully advanced medical recording system where people use everything through the computers, putting orders and communicating with other healthcare providers, other hospitals. All images gets uploaded through electronic platforms. So kind of like compensating was kind of a challenging in the beginning, but I don't think it took that like of a long time that was expecting it to be. But the problem was just kind of adapting to this new lifestyle, back to practice medicine with a society that's different from where I grew up in. And kind of being away of practice for a few years was kind of challenging as well, but eventually it worked out. I feel the second year was a little bit challenging in a different way because during our training in neurology, we do the first year as internal medicine, where we get to be trained on the general bread and butter medicine cases, kind of common medical problems that overlaps with other specialties. And in the second year, you start to learn neurology, cerebrovascular diseases, all kind of like zebras of neurology as well. You get to be exposed to them as well. So I consider it as another internship year, and that's what kind of made it a little bit challenging, I would say. But so far, it's manageable level of stress. As long as you are staying focused, staying on the track, you always kind of remind yourself, why are you here? Focus on the primary goal of why you're doing this, because you get many instances where you get really overworked and tired, and there's a very limited space to recover, especially now with the pandemic, where there's like limited traveling, limited restrictions about like doing other activities to kind of, you know, recover and recharge to go back to work. So it's been challenging. Absolutely, COVID-19 put extra uh, workload on us as residents, and it's been actually, I feel the last 10 months has been challenging, having that pandemic on top of everything itself. I cannot hear you, Sarmad.
All right, so I'm just gonna go ahead. So we had a audio problem, so and I had to stop the mic. I was gonna talk to you more about the COVID situation and how it impacted your life during residency, but I was wondering why you decided to do neurology.
Well, so actually many reasons. First of all, I feel neurology is one of the specialties in medicine that is really sophisticated, uh, has a relatively few number of people who gets interested in it, and the complexity of the diseases and their correlation and how minimal we know about everything about the brain itself was actually pretty fascinating to me. Um, it was since like I actually got introduced to neurology, you know, like in Iraq, we do 6 years of pure medical school. There were two specialties that I kind of like caught my attention, um, neurosurgery and neurology, and also the orthopedics as well, were kind of like the three options that I was kind of thinking that I should specialize in, see what options that geographically where I will be ending up in will kind of which one I will be choosing. So that was kind of the thought process during medical school. Further in the training by the senior year and the year before being a senior medical student, I started to learn more about neurology and see like how those diseases are very cool, especially how correlated they are anatomically, and how certain features can be explainable by an anatomic localization inside the brain or the spinal cord or the peripheral nervous system. Made it really interesting to me, and seeing how certain attendings back in my country and later after getting exposed here during my externship and experience in the US, made it day after day more of an interesting subject that I would love to proceed my life through. And so far, I haven't regretted going to neurology. There's always a feeling that accompanies you all the time when you're dealing with this science. It's just you feel all the time there's so much stuff that you need to learn and you need to know. And no matter how much no matter how big efforts you put in learning, there's always things that you will need to spend time and learn about, because it's such a beautiful and very interesting, I mean, in every aspect, practice-wise, learning-wise, it's something that we are learning about every day. It's one of the specialties that specifically the vascular neurology part is one of the most evidence-based medical practices in the whole kind of medical world, because everything is based on trials, research, new findings, certain things gets changed every few years. What we used to be taught back in medical school is completely now changed in terms of neuroimmunology and multiple sclerosis. There are treatments that are getting approved every year. There are new medications getting approved for headache. So regardless of what subspecialty in neurology you would be interested in, it's just the whole science is very, very attractive. And I feel it's one of the really sexiest, I would say, specialties in medicine because of how complex it is. It's just very, very attractive, I feel.
Wow. Well, I'm glad you like it because you are you're gonna do this for the rest of your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I think it's really important that people choose what they really love. Otherwise, will feel like so when you choose like the career that you like and you be happy, it doesn't feel like work. You just like enjoy doing it, and it makes your life better and happier. A lot of people, they just get stuck in jobs that they don't like, and because they just like someone influenced their decisions. But sometimes like people, are there any people who influence your decisions? Like they helped you, like, oh, for sure, I want to do this. Have you met those people?
Exactly. That's actually happened to me, and this is how kind of my decision was kind of finalized. Because when you walk into the medical system in the United States, you have to be predetermined about what you want to do and reflect that through your application. This is what you're interested in. This is what you will be dedicating months and time and money to invest, getting more knowledge and make your resume by the time you apply more attractive to programs. So I've actually met, I would say maybe 3 to 4 gentlemen who were, I would say, were my role models. And that's why I was actually referring Dr. Izzy, one of Safe Izzy. He's one of the neurologists who was kind of very inspiring to me. Dr. Yasser Jassam is also one of the Iraqi neurologists who's been fantastic kind of in developing his knowledge about neurology as well. So when I met those people in the American Academy of Neurology in Los Angeles almost 3 years ago, what I saw that they've achieved so far in their life career and just basically in establishing their self and establishing their knowledge in neurology, I felt that this is what I would like to choose for myself. And I felt kind of more confident after they talked to me what it would look like to be a future neurologist, all the pros and cons of being a neurologist in the United States. Nothing is perfect in this world. Neurology is not one of the most popular specialties, not one of the easiest to get in. It's not the highest paid, I would say, career in medicine overall. But usually people who choose it are attracted by the passion towards the science and to know more about it, learn more about it, and just kind of deal with how the brain is so complex and how little we know about the brain. Those were kind of the factors that I saw have attracted those people, and I was seeing them, they were attracting me as well. Part of my experience were just getting exposed to a variety of neurology practices. I did a rotation at Harvard Medical School, Cleveland Clinic, University of Kansas. So I was doing neuro ICU, doing movement disorder, doing neuroimmunology.
That was before, sorry for interruption. That was
Yeah,
before you met, correct?
correct. Yes, that was before the match. So being there actually kind of was an eye-opener for me to know how the specialty, how the training looks like.
Okay.
Because this is one of the most tricky things, I would say, that faces all international medical graduates because of our limited knowledge about how the residency life look like, or what is the area of practice. Because I've seen how neurology looks like back in my country compared to here. I would comfortably say it's completely different. We
Yeah.
share the same diseases, we share the same presentations, we share the same probably severities of conditions, I would say, but the way to practice is completely different here. There is like, I feel in Iraq, because of very limited number of people who we have are very well specialized in neurology, they've become more of general neurologists. As if you compare it to here, there's nothing anymore called general neurologist. There's always a subspecialty, or maybe even a subspecialty inside the subspecialty itself. So are getting super subspecialized here. I don't want to say it's better or it's bad, or I'm not in the position to evaluate it, but this has its way of training. So the way we are getting trained is totally different from neurologists who gets trained back in UK, in Iraq, or maybe even in Canada, I would say, because we kind of build our passion towards something we know that we will be subspecializing in, and build our knowledge towards that. So if you want to be a vascular neurologist, this is what you kind of like keep learning more about during residency, advocating more time to that. Compared to general neurologists who's practicing in UK or in Australia, where they have to run a private practice clinic. I'm probably, maybe I can be mistaken, I've never been there, but I'm just kind of giving you like examples of how life can look like on the other end of the game. So practicing here is a little bit more focused compared to someone who's practicing general neurology, who's expected to know the bread and butter of general neurology, knowing about how to treat the outpatient neurology, I would say. Here in the US, there's been a tendency to kind of divert the practice towards being more of inpatient,
Yes.
rather than being an outpatient, because neurology for the longest time was an outpatient specialty. Now it's becoming as a consult service, as a hospital service. There is now a dedicated service everywhere you go for stroke, a dedicated service for neuro ICU, which was something that was fully taken by neurosurgeons in the past, but now neurologists have proved so far that they're the right people to run the ICU in terms of neurologically related presentations. So practice has been changing. Things has been completely looking different in this specialty. And this is, I think, one of the exciting thing about it. Makes it a renewable specialty. You don't need to kind of treat the same problems over and over. There's always something weird. There's always something rare. There's always something interesting that kind of keep you scratching your head all the time and not knowing what's going on. Trust me, we've discharged tens of patients who don't have any idea what's going on. We run all the tests in the world that you can imagine, sending lab works everywhere in the States for rare diseases, and still no luck in getting the knowledge about what was going on. So it becomes kind of
That would motivate you to wake up every day and go figure it out.
And actually kind of frustrates you and challenges you, which makes you kind of like
Worrying without it.
I mean, it's an adventure. This specialty is really an adventure, because you're not dealing with something that hits everybody in the street. Probably stroke does, headache, epilepsy, those kind of things. But I would say those kind of rare neuromuscular diseases, rare neuro ICU problems, how you are dealing with an organ that can kind of decline your quality of life within seconds. How small the clot size is when you see it after they take it out sometimes in the operation rooms. You get like, is that small piece of clot had destroyed this patient's life completely and made them like bedbound, made them disabled, made them in a situation where they cannot talk and they cannot communicate with. So it's just, I think this is part of how, what makes it challenging and interesting for you, like to learn more about it. And
So do you envision yourself in a private practice or work at the hospital?
no, I'm not an outpatient person at all. I am not an outpatient person at all. I like being in the hospital. I like being in acute care, and it's kind of like, yeah, critical situation, I would say. My biggest kind of, my favorite thing to deal with is the brain bleed, and that's kind of my biggest passion. Yeah, it's amazing, by the way. It's really great to work in the outpatient setting and be like a private neurologist, but I feel more towards feel more passionate towards being as an inpatient physician, I would say. I feel it's more fun. I don't know.
I'm going to switch gears a little bit. So I'm going to take you back to Iraq. So how is it like to grow up in Iraq? Where did you grow up in Iraq?
So so we are originally from Baghdad. So you know, like Baghdad is such a big city, has a diversity of people from like different backgrounds, and my family is originally from Baghdad, back like to my ancestors and grandparents, all of them from Baghdad. So what is that?
Where in Baghdad?
So we are from Bab el-Sheikh. This is like where, that's why I get my last name is Al-Shaikhly.
Okay.
It's where basically people from Bab el-Sheikh. This is kind of one of the ancient districts back in Iraq.
That's in the west or east of Baghdad?
It's in the center, I would say. It's in the eastern center east, something like in the center, in the eastern part of Baghdad.
Is it on the east or the west of the Tigris?
It's on the east.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's in the Risafa sector.
Yep.
I grew up because that's where my my father and my uncles, all my father's side family was born and raised in that district. But because of all political and kind of like things that had to move the people of that district, because it became later on kind of a commercial and industrial district. So people start to move out to the surrounding neighborhoods. So my family moved to Al-Baladiyat. That's where I grew up, and I guess I was born there. And I spent.
Is it an urban area or like a city?
It's a city. It's a city. It's just I would say maybe like 15, 20 minutes driving away from where my parents, my father's family grew up. Okay. So they moved there. They got a house, and there my dad married my mom there. And I don't have a big memory for a lot of things that happened during childhood, but it was, I believe, for the longest time that I remember, I really wanted to pursue my education outside the country.
Also, were in high school, you had these ideas of
absolutely. So for different reasons, it's just my dad took us for 3 years because he was a professor at one of the universities in Libya, and that's why we had to move with him for 3 years. So I spent part of my childhood in Libya. At that time, in Tripoli. So at that time, he placed us, both me and my brother. We were just only 2 at that time. So he put us in an American school, and we kind of started to get kind of exposed to the Western education system. We started to kind of get more, exposed to the Western society and Western culture.
Was that in high school or middle school?
That was in the elementary school. That was, yeah, in the third, fourth, and the sixth grade. Yeah.
Oh, that's a good way to get like to know about other cultures.
Exactly. Especially, yeah, especially you remember in that time we were under political siege, and we were very limitedly
Yeah.
exposed to the I would say to the war at that time. So getting that experience, despite it was really hard because most Iraqi professionals at that time had to leave the country because of financial struggles back at home. So they were trying to find a place where they can, earn living for their families and be able to secure a decent life for their families. So the transition took us a while, actually. Took my dad up to, what is that?
When did you move back to Iraq after the war, 2003 war?
Went back in, so we left to Libya in 1997 and we came back in 2000, so before the war. My dad felt that he got tired of being away from his family. And, like eventually we were at the verge of actually migrating somewhere outside, but my mom was not encouraging the idea at that time. She said, like, maybe probably we can send our kids in the future, but that was not the best time for us to, she believed, to kind of move uh, and spend our teenager during, like a very critical timing where you can just, get out of control probably because of the society and many other things. So we went back in 2000. I finished my sixth grade, and then I went to Baghdad College. That was my high school. This is where I believe most of my personality, my, passion towards different things grew up there. It's my, because of how frequent I moved from here and there in different areas in the world and different areas within my country. I felt that school was my home because that's where I spent really long time, 6 years out of I spent, I would say, 21 years back in my country. So out of those 6 years, Baghdad College had the biggest share, I would say, because you don't recall a lot about your childhood until you're maybe like 7, 8, or whatever. So my memories from Iraq mostly are related to Baghdad College, and I believe it's not only me, it's anyone who attended this high school. So basically, just to give you a heads up about the school, it's an American, used to be an American school in the past, was established I think in 1928 or 32, one of those 2 years, by the American Jesuits, the Jesuit fathers. It was connected to a church, and people who attended that school, even since its establishment, has to be highly selected, going through like a series of intense, I would say, IQ testing, and they tend to pick like the highest quality of students who apply to that school at that, like until recently, I would say, at least. So I
the education now is different there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Things has been declining, unfortunately, very, very, very rapidly. Like within the last 17 years, I would say things has been getting out of control. But yeah, like by the time when I applied, it was actually my dad's wish was to make me attend this school. I got accepted there after passing the IQ test, and during my, I would say, education and development during the high school classes, and how we were kind of, the culture back in our country always pushes smart people to go do medicine.
Yes, I agree.
Yes, so which I kind of disagree with. It's not the best strategy to raise children. But for me, it was a little bit different because I really wanted to be a physician. So that's kind of like what was kind of growing inside me, that I want to be a physician one day. I don't know what type of physician, what type of specialty that I'm gonna go to, but eventually kind of started to develop year after year that I should make a plan to try to acquire education from outside. And if the situation will be good in my country, I can go back and practice, or I can just establish a life outside the country. Depends on the situation.
When did you think when did you make your decision? Like, okay, I need to be a physician. You remember, like,
I don't know specifically, honestly. I don't remember when did I, you know.
I agree with you, especially after I moved here. I said, like, oh my God, it's so different here. Like, you can do anything you want. Like, it's just different. Like, you can live a really a good life without working in engineering, or even back now in Iraq, engineering is not good profession, which is unfortunate. It's very important.
True.
Everyone is important to have a community. It's not about only physicians, doctors, engineers, or pharmacists, or engineer. It's a community, so everyone need to do something like different and follow their passion. It's so different here. Like, you see people, like, they just want to do some. Oh, I want to do business. It's just like business. Like, I've never thought about someone wanting to do just business. It's kind of interesting to meet people just want to do something very different. Like, I've never, like, my family never talked to me about this before. It was very eye-opening experience when I moved here. So I was wondering what made your decision. Like, well, how did you make your decision?
Yeah, it's funny. Okay, so I still remember one moment back in 2004.
Okay.
My dad had a heart attack, and I had to take him to the Baghdad Medical City. And I remember that scene when I was like looking through the window. There's like certain set of windows that are projecting across the Baghdad Medical School. That was one of the memorable pictures that I can remember, was kind of seeing my dad is suffering from a medical problem and seeing through the windows medical students going to back and forth from the lecture conference rooms into the anatomy lab or wherever the buildings were, just kind of triggered something inside me. That kind of, I would say, one of the things that I remember clearly were kind of the trigger, I would say, that, hey, I want to be in there. I want to make it there. So, yeah, that's what kind of made me put crazy effort in the senior year of high school. Because as you know, like, we have to score really high to qualify for medical school. I was the 13th in the high school in the ranking. So getting into medical school was, yeah, relatively easy for me. But the thing, unfortunately, what happened, that I had to, because of all the sectarian tension and the war and different things, I had to move with my family to Syria and didn't do my first medical school back in Iraq. So I applied, I got accepted, but I had to leave back to Syria. So
okay. So you had a gap year between high school and medical school?
It's no. Once we finished high school, we immediately moved to Syria and started school there immediately, like a few months after. So I started medical school there.
You started medical school in Syria?
Syria, yes.
Oh, I didn't. Okay.
Yeah, and then we headed back to Iraq after a year, because there was some kind of, I would say, just easing in the sectarian tension. things have started to kind of get a little bit better, I would say, relatively at that time. So we turned back to Iraq, and it was kind of a very, very, very big struggle for us to kind of go back in the system. And they said, because you are accepted here, so we're going to get you back to the first grade. And it was such a big, big, big challenge to kind of get my degree evaluated and enrolled in to qualify me to the second grade. So after 4 months of all this, bureaucracy, I started my second year and finished my whole medical school in Iraq.
You remember the education in Syria? It was in Arabic, I think.
My school was in English. You're right. The public universities were in English, but the one that I went to was a private. So all the private schools were in English. So that was one of the kind of hard things, I would say, to find in Syria, is to have a university that is mainly English. Most of them are in Arabic. You're absolutely right.
But still, you had, like, when you came back in Iraq, less sectarian tension. You never thought, okay, I'm gonna stay here. You still had this dream that, okay, I want to find something.
We decided to sell our house and move to another district, just because where we were living was super, super high intense and sectarian tension, sectarian war.
People.
So
we had, my family, we had to deal with the same thing. We had to move back and forth, and it's kind of weird and unfortunate that we had to live through this, because, like, my family, we had, like, they are married, like, from Sunni and Shia, and it's like they are married, but then it doesn't matter, like, other people, they don't know you in the neighborhood. So you had to make that difficult decision, including dating. I remember it was very, very stressful for myself too, because I had to deal with the same thing in the last year of high school, which is, how important it was.
absolutely.
Medical school.
Not only that, the other problem was because it's actually, this war created such a demographical changes in the districts, and became like, this area is a Sunni, this area is a Shia. Yeah. So it became such a big, big challenge for moving out and moving in. And it was something we have to unfortunately deal with, is to pick where you may move in.
Yes.
That was a big challenge for most of Iraqi families, I would say.
Can you get a little bit closer? Because I feel like your sound is fading.
Okay. Yeah. You feel okay? Sure.
Okay.
So I finished medical school there until 2012. In 2012,
you graduated in 2013, correct?
Yes. But in 2012, I got accepted to an American exchange program at that time, and my school didn't let me go at that time. They put all the challenges, because I was switching between the 5th year of medical school to the 6th year. So, and like, you get only 1 month. So I only needed a couple weeks extra to take it to travel and attend this. So 2 weeks out of my original vacation, and 2 weeks from the senior year of medical school. So they didn't approve the 2 weeks of I would say leave at that time to attend this exchange program.
That's really unfortunate. Like, look at you found a really good opportunity to advance your education, and then you look at, like, schools that don't work with you to improve your education. Like, this mentality need to be changed in Iraq. Otherwise, the culture won't change at all. Like, look at here, and like in every school, I'm sure you met people who are student here. Like, they encourage, like, they have like a 6 months, like a period where you can
go do it somewhere else. Yes.
That diversity of, like, you have to meet other people from different from different university. Like you have to have this diversity. Like you have to be outside. You meet people who thinks different than you. You can't have like everyone thinks the same. It's like I always talk about like people I meet them here. Like they ask me about how is it like to live in Iraq. So a lot of people, they watch the same TV shows, the same everything the same. So kind of like you have this monotonous like thinking, like it's the same, like kind of like the mentality is the same, which is not fun. Like you need people who are different than you. That's how you become more rounded. Is like by meeting people who are different than you.
Yeah, that's why we tend to be very enclosed society, because we don't get exposed to other cultures. That's why we're considering everyone who does not agree with what we think is an enemy, rather than just considering them as another human with another flavor, I would say.
Yes.
Made us a very tough to deal with society, unfortunately.
Yes.
One of the things that the professors were telling me, that this program is sponsored by the US Embassy, you're not supposed to participate in it.
Oh.
So feeling when a physician who is a dean or a vice dean of medical school talk in that level of language,
Yes.
it makes you think 10 times before deciding to stay in Iraq after end practice.
Yeah.
Because if you're talking with what is considered to be the highest level of educated people, talking that level of knowledge and the interesting thing, most of them have traveled, have got some education outside. So when they come and talk to you, when it's your chance to go and explore the world and learn, they try to put every block in stone in your way to not to proceed.
It's so unfortunate because they had to deal with the same obstacles. Like if you know the obstacle, why you don't work to make it easier for people after you? Because what you already went through the struggle to get there.
Sure.
Why do you have to put the same obstacle for the other people who comes after you? Like it doesn't make sense to me.
But here's what I did. I said, you're getting into battle, you gotta win. There's no way that I'm going to let them destroy this chance. So I took all the cost of doing what I did, which I attended this exchange program. They made me fail in one of the classes to extend my graduation 6 months after. So I didn't graduate with my peers in summer of 2013. I had to graduate back in December. So 6 months after, which everything happened for a reason. I'm not regretful about any of that. Actually, they were kind of, they were seeing there's a stubborn student who's been nagging on their head every day. I told them, what do you want to do? What is the worst thing that you want to kick me out of the school? Because it doesn't matter for me. I wanted to go to that program to get a chance to know the US in close.
Yes.
So I made it happen. My parents were very understanding and supporting. They told me, whatever you think is right for you, go ahead and do it because we trust you. We know that you're not an outrageous and reckless person to do stupid decisions. So if you believe in what you're doing, just go ahead and do it. So I took that opportunity, and I came and I participated in representing.
Yes. What program was that?
It's called Iraqi Young Leader Exchange Program.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So that program was the kind of it's basically it's a cultural bridge between the U.S. students and Iraqi students from different backgrounds, different states. It was just such a really nice experience to get to know people from different states. And we get kind of selected to go to certain states. I had to visit Ohio, Cleveland, and we also spent some time in DC, spent some time in Vermont, some time in, where else? A bunch of states like in the East Coast at that time. It was such a nice experience for me to get closer exposure and kind of build what I need to know about what I need to do for the next step.
So for students who are going to watch this, I'm sure that we'll have medical students, current medical students, they hopefully you're going to watch this. And so how did you find about these opportunities? Can you like talk to them, like advise them, how can you find these opportunities to go there?
So
Or other things that you are aware of it now and that you didn't know about it at that time?
So luckily, ILAP has become one of the popular programs, I would say, especially with the internet. There are different types of advertising to it. It has been one of the MEPI. I think it's the other programs called MEPI, Middle East program of something. It's another exchange program many people attended as well. I think those programs created a generation who understand better about the Western society and carried a nice culture back at home. And I felt most of people who attended those programs eventually ended up leaving because after getting exposed to the Western society and the development in science and opportunities and attending schools here because we have to spend part of our training or exchange program in certain universities. So I spent some time at Case Western University. I was kind of like wandering around in Cleveland Clinic. I'm like, do I really want to miss this and not come back and just to stay where I am coming from? Which is like, I feel this is something is a human kind of desire. When you're seeing something more attractive, you just go and proceed to get it. And that's what a lot of students, a lot of physicians finish school. I went back to my country, finished medical school, decided that that's it. This is my stop point with my country. I had to leave. So we went to Jordan for 3 years. That's where I met our mutual friend, Luay. We were there because we were applying for immigration as physicians. Everyone was interested in going somewhere. I was interested to come to the US. Some of my friends wanted to go to Australia. It was the most difficult years of my life. I don't think I would be facing, I hope I'm not going to be facing worst year. Those were kind of like the breakage points in our lives in each one of us. Yeah. Me, and we all also know Sam and Sarmad. So we were like a gang at that time, kind of like very close to each other, very, very close. Me and Luay, we were the only two single guys, kind of by ourselves, no family. And the rest of the folks were with their families. So we were kind of the most, I would say, lonely people. It was the hardest time. Each day during those years was so painful. I was studying for the license exam, USMLE Step 1 there. I passed it there, but still no clue where I'm going to end up in. No clue where I will go to.
Let's wait, Ali, let's wait on this topic. I kind of want to have like a special section for this one. So I have a question. So for students right now in medical school, can they contact programs? Like if they want to do like a clerkship or observership while they are a student in Iraq, can they just contact a school, or is there like an office that they need to contact in each program? So is there any advice for them?
Yeah. So in each hospital, especially the university affiliated hospitals, there's always what they call the, the medical student clerkship department, where there's an office dedicated into accepting students to have a hands-on clinical experience and basically helps them a lot to qualify for residency later.
You know, are you aware of the requirements?
So I'm not familiar with the requirements because I did not know about that even after graduation.
But that information, they can find it on the website.
Yeah, on the website they can look it up, and they can go through all the eligibility criteria. I think this is one of the biggest advices that I would tell the future doctor generations to look that up. I did not know about that one.
Yeah, I mean, I wasn't aware of it until like I moved here, and I knew that many graduates from other international schools, they come here during their 5th year or the 6th year, and then the cool part is that their school will allow them to come here and do like clerkship or observership. It was unfortunate that we were not aware of that at the time. It was a really cool opportunity to see how it's different. Like even like, what do you think of the clinics here? Like at the clinic setup, like when you go to any clinic office, it's I didn't realize how Iraqi was deficient in the resources until I moved here. I walking into a clinic and I see like, wow, it's we need a lot of work. A lot of work needs to be done there. It's unfortunate that that we can't provide such good services to our patient in Iraq.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's one of the things that I wish I knew about by the time I was even in the senior year of medical school, but unfortunately I did not. Sarmad, can we complete the second part later because I have to leave soon?
Yes, sure, for sure. We can talk more later. Thank you for your time.
Of course. Thank you so much for getting here.
And I would love to talk more about. I'm sure people will want to know about the USMLE, and also I'm gonna talk to you about just like life in college in Iraq. So hopefully we get to talk more about that. And maybe if we have time tomorrow or maybe next week. It's up to you.
Let's do. I can do it tomorrow. Tomorrow would be a good day.
So we can talk offline about this.
Yes, we will.